Hi, Learn 11 class. Welcome to lecture video 1 for staying healthy. There are 2 videos in this series, and they're both going to be pretty quick videos, but there are some important activities that are attached one to each video. So for this video, for the first video, we're going to go through slides 1 through 11 on the lecture slides, and then I'll ask you at the end to open up the meal plan right here, the meal plan activity that's also in Canvas, so that you can complete an activity. And I will actually go through the example and the example grocery list that you'll make by the end of that activity. So in video 1, we're going to cover nutrition and physical activity and how to stay healthy when it comes to food and exercise on a really busy, tight schedule. We're going to use finals as our example of a tight, busy schedule. And then in video 2, we'll talk about rest and de-stress. So let's go over to the slides. You'll need something to take notes with and also have that activity handy. Okay, so let's begin the slideshow here. Okay, so the objectives here, the things that we're going to cover in both video 1 and video 2 of staying healthy is really just how to plan for having a busy schedule. We're going to go over some of the signs of eating disorders, and we are going to discuss exercise and sleeping. And then I want to talk about the signs of panic or anxiety attacks, because I know they're very common amongst students. If you've never experienced one, that's wonderful. If you have, you'll never forget it. It's really one of those terrifying experiences, but we can manage those. So let's begin with looking at all the different components of health that make up health. One is nutrition and what we put into our bodies, eating and drinking, how we're active or stay active, how we exercise and get our hearts beating, our relationships and connections to others in our communities, making sure we get enough rest and sleep. Okay, not just sleep, but also downtime, some rest, and then how we manage our stress and what are our reactions to take care of ourselves during really stressful times. A lot of times we don't have the control to make things less busy, but how do we balance all of that? So first we're going to look at just a few kind of helpful tips when we're talking about food and what we're going to eat. One important thing is not to skip meals. I know we get really busy. It's the hardest thing for me as a teacher. I constantly am going from one meeting to another or one class after another, just like you. I might go from one activity to another, like grading to prepping. And I can forget myself in all of that. I can forget the importance of refueling my body and the importance of just taking a few minutes for myself. It's important that we stop and value our quiet time to get food in our bodies. And we don't want to eat quickly because we don't want to choke, and we don't want to cause extra heart like gas pains or anything by eating too quickly. So bringing in what you can eat in the amount of time that you have is key. And so we'll look at some of the tricks for that. Look, most of us are looking at 3 to 4 meals a day and 2 snacks. Now, if you're using more energy, you're burning more fuel because you're exercising more, or you're just more active, or maybe your metabolism is faster. I don't know. Every body is different. Many of us, I should say, are looking at 3 to 4 meals daily and about 2 snacks. And you can always add to that or take away if that's just too much. The key to creating good meals or choosing foods to eat is just to be as colorful as possible. And I'm talking about natural colors, not necessarily dyes and labels, but trying to incorporate as many different colors as we can in each meal. And then balancing out carbs and proteins and fats as well. Sorry. Oops, I didn't mean to do that. Okay, so we're looking at balancing out a little bit of all of them. So what does balance mean? Well, that might mean looking at a large portion of vegetables and grains. So we can it helps us digest some of the proteins that we're going to eat, and then maybe a lean protein or something. If it's tofu, that's okay too. Just you're looking at maybe the size of your fist, and each of our fists are going to be a different size. So your fist is about the size of your stomach. And then 16 ounces of water with each meal. So that's 2 glasses of water with a meal. And so I like to have 1 glass even before I start eating, and then have another glass when I'm finished to help digest. And then as far as snacks go, looking at fruits and vegetables, like celery is a good one, cucumbers, carrots, those are all really easy to grab and manage. Easy to snack on as we're walking from class to class. Fruits, grapes are good. Apples are always good because they keep well. Bananas, they might get smushed, but they also keep pretty well, and they're easy to carry with us. Maybe some yogurts and cottage cheese. This has dairy in it, but you can find non-dairy as well if that's your thing. And it has protein, so and fats as well. And then, of course, nuts and beans like garbanzo beans. You can find, not garbanzo beans, I'm sorry. Oh, shoot, I had it. What you get at the sushi restaurant, edamame, sorry. You can find frozen or cold edamame at Trader Joe's or at any restaurant, at any grocery store. And those are really good snacks too because they're full of protein and they also have fiber in them. Fiber helps us digest. So if you need any snack ideas, these are some of the links that I have in the slide. You can also Google them. They'll give you ideas for quick meals, ideas for healthy meals, ideas for delicious meals. So if you just like to learn more about how to prepare, in college I was always on these sites. I was really, really careful about what I ate. Now, when we're eating on campus, it can be really tricky because we walk into the cafeteria or one of the convenience stores and we see very little healthy food in there, a lot of processed foods. So if we can help it, maybe packing meals and snacks for the day, if you have a little ice cooler, like lunch bag kind of thing. I always had a lunch in college just because it was so much cheaper and easier for me to prepare and plan for meals than it was. And I got into the habit of doing it. I just made sure I was doing it at the end of the day before I went to bed, made the meal for the next day. And I knew I was going to get something that I liked, and I saved a lot of money that way. But if we do have to go into one of these shops, we want to avoid high sugary foods because high sugary foods are going to cause us to crash during a lecture or when we're studying. And we want to avoid the sugar high and the sugar crash. So some of the ways we can do that is we want to make sure we get enough water in so that we're not, paying a bunch of money for plastic bottles. We can bring our own water bottles and refill them. And I used to bring Crystal Light packets or flavored things. They have electrolytes that you can add to your water. They have them at Whole Foods, or you can find them on Amazon as well. And they taste like coconut. It tastes like coconut, so you can mix that into your water if you're really addicted to having some kind of flavor in your drinks. Um, you can also find things like cottage cheese and yogurt inside or string cheese, almonds. Go for the thing in the items in the cafeteria or the convenience stores that have just the most natural sugar and maybe the least amount of salt as well, because salt is something else that causes us to crash and feel very tired and moody. And these things can affect our attitudes while we're trying to listen and concentrate and participate in classes. We want to make sure that we're trying our very best to get between 6 to 8-ounce glasses of water. That's basically 8 glasses of water a day. It's harder than it seems, actually. Now, I want to talk really briefly about eating disorders, because these things, many reasons, we'll talk about reasons in a second. Let me just back up and give you the definition of an eating disorder. The definition of an eating disorder is any kind of abnormal eating habits. So, it's very difficult for us to make judgments about what somebody else's normal eating habits are, because we really just don't know. And so it's important to concentrate on ourselves. I had no idea that I grew up with an eating disorder based off of my family. Eating disorder just sort of ran in my family, and it probably always did since the Great Depression. It was the way that we were taught to eat. We had regular meals, but my family's, it wasn't about the eating, okay? It wasn't about the food or the eating. What eating disorders are about is the relationship we have with food. That's what it's about. It's a disturbed relationship with food. And so how it looks, how it manifests is in these eating habits. So someone else might be able to see them, or they might not be able to see them, depending on whether our relationship with our food is evident to other people. Many people keep this a secret. I had certain aspects that were secretive, mainly because something intuitive told me it wasn't the best form of eating, and there was a lot of shame. I grew up with very little money, and I had very little money going through college, so the sparse amount of food that I was taking in early on really, to me, screamed that I was poor, or that my family was poor, and I didn't want people to know that about me. So that's where the secretiveness came in. But for the most part, once I got to college, it wasn't about a secret anymore as much as it was stress and control and wanting to make sure that my food was nourishing my body. And so much so, it came from a really good place, but so much so that I was afraid to eat anything that was made by anybody else. I was afraid of too much sugar and too much salt because I didn't want to crash. So I really just took it to this unhealthy place. And I didn't realize that until I ended up getting help. So there are 2 forms of eating disorders. One of them is anorexia, and this is characterized by self-starvation or withholding food. And bulimia is characterized by excessive eating, or like binge eating, and then purging the food later, or getting the food out of the system in unnatural ways, like throwing up or eating laxatives and that type of thing. The causes of eating disorders comes down to, sometimes our culture isn't, they're still learning about this kind of mental disturbance, kind of. It's really patterned. A lot of it does come from environment or from family of origin. Also, it's no wonder that we have people using what's normally meant to sustain and care and nurture ourselves, to really self-care. It's turned into a form of punishment or withholding or delaying gratification or, a kind of control. Because within our culture, if you look around, the signs of shared, assumed ideas of beauty are having everything under control, being very independent and knowing all the answers, never being wrong, being able to take on anything that comes our way, also being able to do it while looking good. And by good, we have so many definitions of that. But if you really want to know what these shared ideas of beauty are, or grace or strength, you just have to look at magazines, at ads on the TV, commercials, TV. It's literally everywhere. And these are not true images of most of us. Most of us are average people, and we make mistakes, and sometimes we eat more than we'd like to, and sometimes we don't eat when we need to eat because we're very busy and we forgot to stop. I mean, these are just the way life is. And so when we add stress to that, when we add frustration or disappointment that we are competing with the people around us to do well, we can take this in many different ways. It comes out for each person differently. And we'll talk about anxiety and panic attacks in the next video, but these are really just moments or cries for help moments when we're really at our most stressful points. And so if you notice any of this in yourself, and you notice that food is a way for you to get some kind of control, or to feel better, to feel, it's a temporary kind of feeling better versus just, nurturing and sustaining yourself so you can go and keep moving forward and being the awesome student that you want to be, please seek help. There's counseling on campus. We've talked about this, and the number is, I don't know why that's double, 938-938. It's just 938-3987. I apologize for that error. But please talk to somebody. It's really enlightening, actually, and freeing to hear some of the reasons that we're digging in this way. I know for me, it was an absolutely miserable place to be. I couldn't go out to eat or have a meal with my family without having some kind of fight or defending myself constantly. And I didn't realize that was a sure sign that something was not at ease inside of me. So, and you're always welcome to reach out to me as well, because I've been there. So moving on, we're going to talk a little bit about staying active, and how staying active is actually doesn't necessarily mean we need to have an hour of sweat, the kind of exercise that we're sweating for an hour. So that's really good for cleaning out the system and the pores, and also bringing about the hormones that calm us and help us to sleep better and all that. But staying active is just a daily practice, and we can find really simple ways to do that in our day-to-day. It's important to keep in mind that physical movement, any kind of physical movement, it stabilizes our moods, because our stress is relieved. When we talked about memory, we talked about the brain fluid washing away the toxins in the brain and clearing blockages to remembering. When we exercise, we allow these hormones to wash over our brains and also clear out any gunk that was stuck. We can have high levels of distress when we aren't active. So if you're starting to feel really a lot of anxiety, maybe one session of a good sweat, and it could be just jumping up and down. It could be running around the block. That's going to help get you back to balance. But some other activities that we can keep in mind and stuff I loved in college, because a lot of times I was so tired that to go for a run was just really exhausting to think about. So I liked to make my activities social and take walks with my friends during sunset or early in the morning. Was really nice first thing in the morning to be able to see a friend and take a half an hour walk. I would go on really, really long walks whenever I could, 6 mile walks that took a couple of hours with my friends. And we didn't do it every week, but we did it every couple of weeks. And it was a nice way to connect and distress. And the important thing to remember about any kind of movement or activity, exercise, is to not wait until the time of day when you're most tired or to put it off until you're tired. I know in the evenings, I'm so much less likely to do a hard workout than I am in the mornings, and that's just my body clock. So everybody's different. When I was in college, I couldn't do them in the mornings. I needed to do them in the evenings. So some of the some like fun ideas that you can work into your routine are things like, rather than parking up close, park far away and walk. Use that as an opportunity. I used to ride my bike to school, and that was my exercise. Using stairs any chance you get, taking the long way when you can. There's a dance video called Dirty Dancing, and this dance video, you don't need a partner for it, so it's just basically a dance workout, but you get to learn different routines, and I found it on Amazon. I didn't purchase it, but I just thought, how fun. So you can find a bunch of different workout videos. I have one called Latin Heat African Beat, and it's 20 minutes, but I'm sweating by the end of it, and it's just a lot of fun. Some of the other things you can do, and these are free things. There's yoga on the Bluff in Long Beach, on Ocean and Winnepearo or Cherry Beach. It's right next to Bixby Park. There's free yoga, or it's donation based. So, give a couple of dollars, or when you're strapped for cash, just go out in the fringes and you can do some yoga. People bring their dogs and their kids. So it's really a community event. It's outdoors, so it feels really nice to get some fresh air. There are so many parks that you can walk around in. El Dorado Park is beautiful. There's a nature center there as well. It's like, a mini hike. In Huntington Beach, there is the wetlands. I see people running and walking across the wetlands a lot. And there's a lot of nature, birds, and just animals around. It's very peaceful. There are free tennis courts at Cal State Long Beach. I don't know what the rules are, but you can find those free tennis courts at different parks, and bring your racket. And I know when I was in college, I do not know how to play tennis. I'm not good at it, but I would pretend for the sake of exercising and really just running back and forth. And it was challenging and a lot of fun. I was laughing a lot. Again, riding bikes to school, or just having a leisurely ride is a nice activity, or skateboarding. I know, like, parking far and then skateboarding to school or scootering to class is a good way to get in some exercise. And also, I purchased a hula hoop because I can watch a show, or I can, read whatever I need to read and still hula hoop. So that's a really good exercise too. I know my cousin, when we had lived together, she bought a mini trampoline, and that was always fun too. We put on music and just dance and have a good time. Now, on the other side of exercise is rest and relaxation. So anything that's going to slow down the brain and rest the brain, even if it's catching it for 15 minutes, 10 minutes throughout the day, our bodies really need rest. Resting allows us to avoid getting sick. I've really, really bad allergies. And when my allergies are super overactive, my body is working overtime to try and fight the allergies. So I'm more likely to get sick during that time. So it's important that when I feel tired, I take a rest. I close my eyes, um, you know, laying down in the grass or in the sun when you get a chance is really good. Or going to your car and just taking a little snooze. But important, we talked about time management early on in the semester and how to create a schedule for yourself where you could block out time for rest. I'm going to reiterate that and remind you of that, that planning for that is important, but sometimes you can't plan for like allergies or something, and you'll just need to take that time. You're in charge of you. You're the only person who's in charge of your body. You are the number one person who is in charge of giving your body what your body needs. Nobody else is. So, it's important to take that responsibility seriously. Getting in touch with nature is a way to calm down the mind, to slow down. I love campfire. Watching a fireplace or a campfire is super soothing to me, or the waves at the beach. Sometimes even just the wind through the trees and just noticing that for a while, and the sound helps to slow down a lot of my thinking or overactive mind. And you can do this in parks. There's free not many of them are not free, but they're with a student ID, affordable, very, very affordable. There's one in Rancho Los Palaverdes, I want to say. There's one in Fullerton. There are botanical gardens everywhere. So it's basically a huge stretch of land with different trees and different from different parts of the world. Taking a hike, Palos Verdes again is really great for hiking, and that's nearby. Going to the beach and putting your feet in the sand. There's something called grounding. We have a lot of pores on our feet. Our feet are very porous, so they absorb minerals and vitamins really easily. So when we take off our shoes and we walk in the sand, or we walk in the dirt, the fresh dirt or the grass, our feet are absorbing minerals that are really, really important for our bodies, nutrients. And so a lot of times if I'm feeling kind of run down or something, I'll go and stand in the grass and just walk in my yard or at the beach or something to see if that will help me feel better, in the long run. Another thing we can do is Los Alamitos Ranch and Los Cerritos Ranch, and those places were offered to you as optional credit. Visiting those were offered to you as optional credit. Some of you went and some of you didn't, but this is a great place to go and study or just take in fresh air and some really beautiful sights. Okay, so we are actually going to stop there. I went a little bit too far with resting. That was supposed to be on the next slide, I believe. But I will stop here. So please pull out your activity. That looks like, let's see if I can pull it up for you. Not that activity. I'm trying to get this one here. It's not showing up. Let's do this. Okay, so on my desktop here, you can see, oops, that's definitely not the one I was looking for. That's why it wasn't showing up. Sorry, it was all prepared. I don't know what happened. Let me grab it in here. All right, so it looks like this. It's got breakfast, snack, lunch, snack, and dinner, and the days, 7 days on it. And what I would like you to do with this is it's blank for you, and you're going to fill in ideas for healthy meals so that you can meal prep for a week. And so some ideas that I had were whole wheat toast and avocado for breakfast, an apple and some almonds for a snack, in between breakfast and lunch. And then at lunch, I'll have a quesadilla with some roasted vegetables and 2 rice cakes. And then another snack is hummus and pita or pita chips. And then for dinner, I'll have tilapia, roasted potatoes, and broccoli. Now, what I've done is, and each day I've varied it up a little bit so that I'm not so bored with the same meal every day or the same meals, but also not too many meals that I can't use all the products that I buy at the grocery store, because I don't want to overspend either, and I don't want my food in my fridge to go bad. So based off of, choosing 3 meals, I would say choose 2 meals for each one. So 2 different meals for breakfast, 2 different meals for lunch, 2 different meals for dinner, and then 4 different snacks for your 2 snacks a day. And then once you've got an idea of what you want to eat, then you go over and you start making a grocery list. Now, let me move us over to the grocery list. It looks like this. I've separated everything because when I go to the grocery store, I want to be in and out, right? And so I'm thinking of where everything is located. Like I know the pasta sauce is near the pasta, and I know the peanut butter is near the bread. I'm going to look, and you can organize this however you would like that makes sense to you. And this is everything that I need for a week's worth of all of my meals taken care of. Now, I don't know if you'd be buying for a family, if you're just buying for yourself, the amount that you're going to need is different. So I didn't put amounts. I just put, the items. And then I went back over to my meal plan once I made my grocery list, and I started planning for how I can save time in meal prep, which means if I make all my roasted vegetables in the oven on Sunday, I'll use Sunday as my prep day, then I can get all the veggies made for my quesadillas. I can make my quesadilla the night before and throw the veggies in because they're already in my refrigerator made, and I can wrap it up in foil and it's done. Okay. Then when I leave for the day, I'm going to throw all these vegetables in the crock pot and get the crock pot going so that when I come home, I can throw my tilapia in the oven and my veggies are already done. So within 20 minutes, I've got a meal because the veggies have been cooking all day while I was gone. Crock pots are pretty cheap. You can find them on Amazon. You can find them at the garage sales, a different Craigslist, or there's another app that has a lot of this kind of stuff. OfferUp is another one. So it's a really good tool because you can also cook chicken in them. You can cook meat. I've made spiced apples. I've thrown apples inside a crock pot with some cinnamon and a little bit of natural sugar, or you can use syrup or something like that, and cooked throughout the day. And then I had this like applesauce, basically natural applesauce that I made for myself when I was sick and couldn't really digest much. And that I could put on top of yogurt, or I could put it on top of oatmeal or stuff like that. But I knew I was getting my vitamins. So that is a plan. Let's see, is there anything else? I do not think so. There are creative ways to mix and match these meals as well. They don't have to stay the same, but for routine and time's sake, like for me, I just want everything kind of easy and accessible. So if it stays the same for 1 week, I can change it the following week. But that's a way to save money, save time, and get really nutritious food. Okay, so it's your turn now to do this activity and see how far you can get. If you have any questions, of course, you can email me, or if you would like, you can let me know to start a discussion board and I can get you guys talking to one another. Alrighty, thanks so much. I hope you enjoyed this lecture. Moving on to lecture number 2. I'll see you there.